Welcome to Life Happens, where Texans come to protect their legacy and prepare for the second half of life. Join your host, Attorney Kim Hegwood of Your Legacy Legal Care, and our weekly guest as we navigate the challenges that emerge as life happens. Now here's your host, Kim Hegwood.
Good morning and welcome to Life Happens with me, Kim Hegwood, and our very special guest today is Ashley Ballou. And good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for inviting me on.
And we always want good information, for our listeners. And the name of your company is Manifest My Potential. And so we're going to be talking about today the benefits to rehab therapy and caregiver support. And so just to kind of start us off slow, to kind of, because, 10's early for some people. And what's the difference between, physical and occupational therapy?
Well, thank you, first of all, for inviting me. And yes, my business is called My Potential Occupational Therapy and Wellness. But to answer your question, the difference between physical and occupational therapy is physical therapy looks at like mobility and looks at making sure there's functional strength and overall strength of the patient that they're seeing, making sure that they're able to be safe when they're mobile, and in the event that they are uh, in the bed or bed bound, making sure that their muscles stay strong, have good tone, things of that sort. Occupational therapy looks at the global daily needs of the person and making sure that they are as independent in the things that they need to take care of for their daily activities, as well as making sure that they are cognitively supported in making sure that they're making those good decisions with their day-to-day life. So, for example, a physical therapist would look at, let's just say, the mobility, making sure that they're safe with their walker, safe with any type of adaptive equipment that used for mobility, wheelchair. But we look at the how they're going about using it, being able to go to the toilet, to self feed, to make sure that they're making the proper decisions safely to be able to be as independent as possible.
So does it differ in physical therapy and does it differ with people with dementia, or is it pretty much the same?
So it, in terms of, is it the same when it comes to treating or
Ye-
evaluating?
Yes.
No, not necessarily. So for those who have dementia, they're looking at a physical therapist is definitely going to look at how they respond to commands, being able to follow the directions, and how safe they are in the environment to be able to be mobile and whatnot. For an occupational therapist, we're really looking at the cognitive functional side, making sure that they are able to safely be in their home or safely be in their memory care, if not. Being able to thrive in making sure that they're intaking all their meals, making sure that their environment is adapted in a way to make sure that they are not being overstimulated, and that they feel that the caregivers, excuse me, are educated in how to create an environment where they are thriving and that they are participating in activities.
So what are some signs to look for when you've got the client that has dementia? Because we're seeing more and more of that in my elder law practice. So you've got a client with dementia, so in them specifically, how do you think they benefit from therapy?
Well, there's many ways that a client with dementia could benefit from therapy. The things that we look for, or a caregiver should look for, is signs of like daily participation in activities, so such as dressing or bathing or self-care. Are they doing things in a sequential order? Are there delays, seeming stuck? Or is it difficult for them to manage like household tasks and chores that they typically were more, I guess, well versed and efficient in? Are there changes in mobility in the way they move? Are they showing consistent falls or trips? Those are things to even be mindful of. If there's communication breakdown, not only in just articulation and how you hear it, but are like if the loved one was once very jolly and outgoing, but then now is starting to some agitation or becoming more aggressive, just not themselves. That's a sign to even look up with like behavioral changes. And then we look at like, of course, memory loss. That's atypical of aging adults, and definitely any medical conditions or emotional things that are taking place due to pharmacology, meaning like medication changes and whatnot. That seems like it's not making things better, it's just making things worse.
So when someone is looking to, get some therapy support, how do they decide?
Well, definitely looking for those signs is a first thing to manage when looking for like therapy for a loved one. But you also need to be mindful, like as a caregiver, how to know when you yourself need some level of support for therapy. So there are a few things out there to for caregivers to self-assess whether or not they need support or might need to reach out for support. And of course, if they lack skills in caregiving, a lot of us are thrown into caregiving not by choice, but by circumstance. And because of that, um, that is a time when someone would need to seek out therapy, and not just therapy like mental health support, but just like skills training to be able to maintain the newness of their loved ones, disability or their lack of being able to maintain independence.
So outside of providing a home exercise plan,
Mhm.
so what can the occupational therapist do to give the caregiver more support?
Okay, we can do several things, so that's a good thing. So many times, physical and occupational therapists and even speech therapists are directly correlated to home exercise, home activity plans, where we come in, do therapy, we give you a piece of paper, and then you're left with a piece of paper and hopes that you can recall everything you've done. But in the case of what an occupational therapist should do is definitely ongoingly through the therapy process provide education and to confirm that they do demonstrate understanding and even demonstrate their understanding to make sure that it's presented properly to someone, their loved one, as well as making sure that it is being done safely, not only just for the loved one, but for themselves. Um, Occupational therapists many times can act as group facilitators and caregiver support groups. Because we are looking at things holistically, we are looking at all the different components of wellness. And we are also looking at the daily routines. That's just something that occupational therapists do. That's in our framework. And so we take what's in our framework, looking at roles, routines, and the day-to-day task, and we can generate that into being able to support a group and facilitate, so that way um, they can not only just get the mental health component, but also get the component of how do I do this life now? And when there's changes, how do I make adaptations? And we can be able to support in that way as OTs. Other things we also do is do a lot of uh, care coordination. So when we think of care coordination, a lot of times we think about social workers doing care coordination, making sure that they are connecting the dots. But we too can also connect the dots with different rehab professionals and different resources, within the community, as well as even adaptive equipment or home modifications. A lot of OTs are now also going into home modifications, making sure that they're aging in place clients are able to age in place within the boundaries of their liking. One of the biggest things about occupational therapists is we focus on what is meaningful to the client. So the key word is meaningful. So it may not be meaningful for me, but if it's meaningful to them, we're making sure that we address the goals and the ideals that will keep intact independence, safety, but also their personal character and their family culture. So being very respectful and mindful of that. So those are the different ways that we can, as occupational therapists, assist.
So you said something earlier that caught my attention. And so let's talk about, I think you said something about a holistic wellness model.
Mhm.
And so how does that help caregivers?
So I hate to say it's trend, but right now there's a heightened focus on mental health and the idea that ongoingly before COVID, before this heightened awareness of mental health and its importance, we need to think of ourselves, you and I, and anyone that's a caregiver, holistically. So when I look at that, I'm looking at your physical, emotional, social, occupational, intellectual, spiritual wellness, and even your financial wellness. All of those components are activities of daily living, which are things that occupational therapists address. If there is one breakdown in one area, typically there's a ricochet of a breakdown going elsewhere. It's our job to collaborate with the caregiver to make sure that these wellness components are intact, not perfect, but are functional and are intact. So, as an OT, we look at this holistic model of for caregivers, or excuse me, we apply this holistic model to caregivers because we understand that it's not just their wellness, but they are also looking into the wellness of someone else. A lot of times, um, caregiving models are created to care for the loved one. We are providing therapy to the loved one. We are rehabilitating the loved one, habilitating the loved one, making sure that they have maybe even finances to care for their medication, to make sure end of life decisions are provided for on behalf of the loved one. But who is taking care of the day to day finances of the person? A lot of debt is being, is occurring on behalf of families that are not prepared or ill prepared for this caregiving. A lot of times it's spontaneously happening. So this is an emotional component of wellness. We are talking about the intellectual component too, because a lot of times loneliness is a component of what caregivers deal with. And so we're talking about how to engage them in meaningful activity so that way we don't fall into depression and loss of identity due to the fact that they've already been, this is what they see themselves as a caregiver, and they're committed to it. And I've been there. I've been a long distance caregiver at one point for 8 years, and that was just integrated in my life. But just because it's in your life, it doesn't mean you have to be of it. So you don't have to be of your of the role. You It's just a part of you, but it's not all of you. So I really like to take this holistic wellness approach with caregivers because, one, because it's a vital component of occupational therapy. I get to kind of blend those two together, but also so that way caregivers can have a voice and feel like they are being heard and know some strategies and make some action steps to get that much closer to one, awareness of who they are, um, and then to making sure that they're making progress uh, while in the role, and even have action steps that in the event you lose the role due to death, that you have a game plan to live a meaningful and quality life.
Well, girl, I'm a huge fan of taking care of caregivers. And so, and I'm for my own personal, stories with my family. And so, where are 2 to 3 places a caregiver can go to address those wellness needs so that they're good? You know,
Well, definitely your resource that you have online. You have a wonderful amount of YouTube videos that are available, and so
Thank
I
you.
appreciate I appreciate the complexity of the topics. Like, I mean, those are some topics that I feel like a lot of people are not hitting on, and I appreciate that you are thinking openly, even outside of like maybe your niche. This is beautiful. And so there are a lot of people that I follow on Instagram, and I can give I guess a list to you guys in future, but a lot of Instagram personnel that are coming up or to address those different components of um, caregiver support, and to address just making sure that caregivers are aware that they are um, open to, excuse me, I'm going blur, so you might have to cut it. I'm thinking too fast, so I apologize. But I believe that the outside of Instagram and your YouTube videos, definitely, there are different websites, of course, that are highlighting wellness, that are highlighting the components, even on the state level. Houston, I'm still exploring, honestly, Houston wellness driven based caregiver support. So far, right now, not to necessarily share like what I'm doing, but I have a Houston caregiver support group that is on Facebook. It's a group and it's open to anyone who would like to join. To be able, and we talk about once a month a wellness topic, so that way individuals, whether they are paid caregivers, family caregivers, or just seeking to know like a little bit more information on how to be a support to a caregiver, we are addressing that. So this month, it'll be every second Thursday in the evening where we will meet and uh, go over those topics.
Well, Ashley, that sounds fantastic. So, if somebody wants to find you so they can get in on some of that stuff, how do they do that?
Okay, definitely. You can go email me, let me know what you specifically might need. Sometimes caregivers don't know what they don't know, and that's totally okay. Just say, like, hey, I need help, and we can get on a quick phone call and chat about your specific needs at info@manifestmypotential.com. And then on www.manifestmypotential.com, which is our business website. We have an area for Caregiver Thrive. And that's the name of the wellness program that I've designed to make sure that there is a continuum of support, not only for your loved one I am an OT, but a continuum of support for you to make sure that you are thriving as a caregiver. So there is a link within the web page to be able to put your information in, and then we will. I can, or any of my assistants can support you in your needs.
And they can call you too, right, Ashley?
Oh, most definitely. Yeah, my number is in the show notes, but it's 281-572-5565. And you can send a text or you can call. And I do check my voicemails. I know we live in a world where voicemails are not always used, but I do check my voicemails and I will return your call.
Perfect. Thanks so much for being on the show. It's good information for us today. We look forward to having you on again soon.
Thank you so very much, Ms. Kim. Take care.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of Life Happens with Kim Hegwood. Be sure to tune in every Thursday at 10 a.m. wherever you listen to your podcast as we navigate through the challenges that emerge as life happens. The content of this podcast does not establish an attorney-client relationship or constitute attorney-client privilege, legal, medical, financial, or any other professional advice.